We call it STEM music indeed. Welcome to the STEMusic podcast, where we highlight multicultural STEM professionals and the music they love, providing valuable insights to emerging professionals in STEM. I'm Roy Moy III, your host, and we have a very special guest on the podcast today. She comes from the E in STEM, so engineering. She holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Southern University and A&M College. She is the 2023 former board president of Culture Creations, a nonprofit organization serving the foster youth of Kansas, the 2023 and 2024 ICT Urban Professionals Fast Track Development Lead, a current high school math tutor with some impressive results in her tutoring efforts that we will cover later in this podcast. And she is the first woman to graduate from the Master's in Engineering, Leadership, and Management program at the University of Oklahoma with a 4.0 GPA, and she completed this master's degree program in 1 year, y'all. STEMusic Nation, please help me welcome Aerospace Industrial Engineer for the 737 Fuselage Design Engineering team at Spirit Aerosystems, Miss Ayana Allen, to the STEMusic podcast.
Everywhere we go, call it STEM music. People gotta know, call it STEM music. We gon' make it flow. Call it STEM music. Call it STEM music. Call it STEM music. Everywhere we go, call it STEM music. People gotta know, call it STEM music. We gon' make it flow. Call it STEM music. Call it STEM music. Call it STEM music.
Hello, Ayana, how you doing?
What's up? What's up?
You
Roy?
good?
Yes, I'm great. I'm great.
It's so good to see you. And, when I was thinking about relaunching, the STEMusic podcast, Black History Month, celebrating, I'm like, who should be that first guest? And you immediately came to mind. One, because I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw your post about you graduating, and I was like, how's she doing that fast? So when you told me that you in the comments prior to this episode that you had done it within a year, I said, oh, that makes sense. But when I saw that, I just started thinking about your story and all of that. And I said, she would be a great guest. So I'm happy that you are on the podcast. Thank you so much for saying yes.
Thank you. No, thank you and STEMusic for having me here.
Absolutely.
I'm very appreciative.
So, we always start with one question, and that one question is, how did you get into STEM? So when you think back on your childhood, when you think about when STEM kind of came into your purview, what was it about? Whatever topic you were interested in, how did you get into STEM?
It stuck with me in the beginning, in my early years. I used to sit at home and do puzzles.
Okay.
I would do puzzles. I would put them together, take them apart. Put them together, take them apart. So it kind of just stuck with me. The strategy of it, the doing it multiple different ways, getting the same outcome, and that's what STEM designing, that's what that's about. Being able to strategize and do different processes in different ways. I was in the 6th grade when my 6th grade math teacher, she pulled me to the side, and she was like, I was in an honors class, and she was like, hey, I need you to stop talking in class.
That sounds like me.
She was like, hey, I need you to stop talking in class. I have this opportunity for you. I want to sign you up for it, but I'm not going to put my name on it if you don't get your act together.
Ooh.
So the opportunity was, I was in the 6th grade math. I get to skip the 7th grade math and then go to the 8th grade math.
Wow.
So she was like, you're intelligent, you're bright, you're smart. I want to give this to you, but I need you to get your act together. So from that age, I was like, well, it sounds like, she really believed. She seen something in me, and I was like, okay, maybe I can do it.
You need people to believe in you. That is so interesting. And man, I'm not going to get on my soapbox, but it's so interesting because you're talking about 6th grade, right? You're talking about 6th grade. And a lot of times on the podcast, I will bring up just some of the information that we, people from underrepresented communities may not have about STEM and the trajectory of how to get to engineering or something. And so as you're talking to me and telling this story, I'm thinking, I was in middle school taking a math test in the 7th grade, and I happened to get the score that I needed to end up in calculus by senior year.
Yes.
And so as you're talking about that, that's what that reminds me of. But also it reminds me of the beauty of teachers who really do care, who really do see something in students. Because, I was a chatty Cathy too. I was shy at first. Then I hit 5th grade, and man, I just started talking. And so for your shout out to your teacher to call that out and say, hey, like, I'm going to give you a choice. Like, I think you are smart and you could excel in this, but you got to pull it together, you know.
Okay. And then a whole another part of that conversation that was really important, that piece was that she was one of us.
Yeah.
Many other teachers were not like that.
Yeah.
So she kind of pulled me by my shirt, my collar. Hey, come step outside.
And that matters. Like when you can see a teacher, an engineer, a professional who looks like you, it hits a little different, right?
Does.
It hits a little different. And I'm pretty sure, like for her, she was like, no, I was probably that kid talking when I was going through school too, who needed somebody to you know, check up on me and challenge me to do better. So I love that. I love that story. And, you know, we're going to talk about your math tutoring later. I need you as my tutor. The way you were talking about the puzzles, you said you could do it in multiple ways, like different approaches to it.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with math, which is what drove me crazy. I'm like, no. I need to like go the same way every time to get the answer. So when you switch it up on me to solve for X or Y or X and Y in the same equation, I'll be like, oh, it was a struggle bus for me. So, but that's a really good story. And it's really cool to see that someone kind of called that out. Because sometimes there's two different stories of like, hey, I really, like me, obsessed with airplanes. And that's kind of what led me to this path. You just living your life, bebopping in math class, excelling on all the work, right? But then someone says, hey, you could do, so that's great. So, okay, so clearly that sets you on a trajectory. You get through,
Absolutely.
you know, high school, you know, coming to the end of high school and you're like, hey, this is something that I think I want to maybe pursue in an engineering context. And so I would love for you to share with STEM Music Nation, you know, how did you decide on mechanical engineering and then journeying into college from there? And particularly in Black History Month, you know, we're celebrating Black culture, and you went to a historically Black college university,
Correct.
Southern University, and
Go Jags.
Go Jags, right?
Go Jags.
So, you know, would love to hear that story. So, you know, going to mechanical engineering and saying, this is what I want to do, but then saying, I'm going to a HBCU. So yeah, let us know about that.
Okay, so in high school, I was kind of rebellious. Okay, so in high school, I didn't know what an engineer was. Going into senior year, our guidance counselors are letting us know, like, hey, make sure that you are understanding, start applying, basically. Just start applying. So I'm like, okay. I always wanted to go to LSU.
Okay.
Right. But certain experiences throughout my college, my high school career, I was just like, okay, no.
This is not for me.
I learned about HBCUs. I learned exactly what an HBCU was. I had a few cousins that graduated from Southern. So I was like, okay, yeah. This is where I'm going to go. This is where I'm going to go. And then, so what led me to engineering was, okay, my favorite subject was math.
Okay.
My favorite subject was math. My senior year in high school, I did not have to take a math class because I skipped the class. I was already early.
Wow,
so I had completed all of my math credits. But so looking up math majors, like everything that falls under the category of math. And engineering was one of them. So between mechanical, civil, electrical, mechanical was the more broader, the broader one. And that is what Southern offered. So I was like, okay, well, calculus was like a prerequisites or something. And then I was like, but everybody was in my ear, engineering is really hard. Are you sure? There's no engineers that look like you. Like, it was just things coming out the woodwork.
That's so true. It's the experience that we have in that, because the same thing was happening to me in high school as well. Like, are you sure? And meanwhile, I actually didn't like math, but I love airplanes, and I was like, I want to design them. And so, talk more about that. Like, what was that like?
So, like, all of those things are just coming at me, and I'm just like, this is your life. So I was like, okay, I didn't have to take a math class my senior year, but I was like, I could enroll into calculus.
Sure.
I didn't have to take it, but I could enroll into it if I wanted to. So I was like, well, when I enroll in calculus, I take calculus. If I pass with an A, I'm granted to go to school for engineering. So what did I do? I made an A in calculus.
What? You made that like pact with yourself?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's really interesting.
Yes.
And then got that A.
And I got the A.
Wow. That's so interesting because like I'm just thinking about typical high schoolers. I don't think many high schoolers are saying I'm gonna go to take calculus 1 and then I'm gonna like make a pact with myself that I got to get an A in that class, and then that will send you on to engineering. Wow. And so that's kind of how that journey happened.
That is how that journey happened, because my mom was one of those, she was like, well, once you pick a major, like, you're not changing it. So choose wisely.
This is what you're going to go into.
She's like, choose wisely. And so if it wasn't engineering, I was going to go into business.
Okay.
But my sister graduated in business, and I think I'm better than my sister.
No shade to the sister. No shade to the sister.
No shade. But so yeah.
I love that. Healthy competition. And also just like you said, like wanting to do something different, but also something that fit your interests. You know, you actually had an interest in that area and you're really good at math. So that's awesome. And of course, as you said, Southern, they had the mechanical engineering major. Correct. You had family members who graduated from HBCUs. And so you decide to go. And so I would love, especially for those who may be thinking about going to college, or even just peers, of ours who didn't get a chance to go to HBCU, right? That's more of who's really watching. We see y'all out there, STEMusic Nation, our peers in the STEM industry. But what was that experience like going to a HBCU and, getting to battle the bands, all this stuff, right? Like tell us, give us a peek into that world.
So HBCU land is really the home of the family. Going to the classes, the music that you hear playing, the collaborations that everyone had together. We all had the same background. So we had more to share. We had smaller classrooms. So we had interpersonal relationships with the professors.
Wow.
So it wasn't too much to ask. If we needed something, they were there to help us. Whether that was in like the student union where we all gathered for, we call it Pretty Wednesdays. So that's when everyone would dress up really nice, business casual, business professional. Okay. They'd go out. You'd have the Vine Nine out there stomping and stepping all over the yard. So that is that culture that we yearn when we speak of HBCUs. Not only that, just the excellence that they provide, like all of the talent that comes out of that. I know all of my graduate class, it was probably like 11 of us, I want to say. But we all have great jobs. Like they provided a way for us after undergrad. So
I love that. It's amazing because you can watch movies like Drumline and stuff like that, right? And you're kind of getting a little insight to it, but of course it's not the same thing or the as the real version. And so just hearing those different things from you about the culture, about the family. A couple mentees of mine went to HBCUs and they sharing their stories. And so I think it's really incredible. It's really special because of the longevity of these institutions and the opportunities, like in Black History Month. Thinking about, the ways that have been paved, for so many Black professionals, just in general, but also in STEM through HBCUs, and feeling empowered and being able to be in a classroom, like you said, where you have a great relationship with the instructor. The class to professor ratio is not so crazy, right? And then the cultural aspect that I think sometimes, if you're not from the Black culture or, Latino culture or whatever, a different culture, the professors actually understanding the background of the students. Yes. That to me is so pivotal to the success, and I've even heard some of my peers tell stories of like, them, of course, demanding excellence, right? Yeah. And so they kind of know when to call the students out and how to do it. Because they know they come from, these communities. So yeah, I love that. That's amazing that you took that chance, you had that opportunity, and decided to pursue your mechanical engineering dreams and goals through Southern,
Yes. I'm so happy. I'm proud. I'm blessed. Southern University and A&M College did their big one.
Yes. Yeah, and they really did, and I got to see it, on display at Spirit. So, and that's in Baton Rouge,
Louisiana.
Baton Rouge. All right, where they recently had some snow, around that region, and people outside like little kids, like, oh my God.
Yes, it was beautiful. It was joyful. I'm glad that they got to experience that. I had my family down there, and they wanted to come up to enjoy the snow. Yeah. They wanted to see it. But I was like, God heard y'all wish.
And it's down there for y'all. You like, no, I've seen snow a couple times now that I've been up in Kansas.
Yeah.
So that's funny when you always have family members like that. So, okay. So but that's a great segue into the next part about you being in Kansas, your family being in Louisiana. You then do decide to come to Kansas.
Yes.
Out of college, out of a HBCU, in a predominantly, male-dominated, white male engineers field in the Midwest, right? Which is typically what you're going to find in Midwestern larger companies. And so, what was that experience like for you? One, just being able to get in position to, find that job, but then now leaving home. I'm thinking about professionals who maybe in their early career or mid-career, and they're like, oh, I might want to move to a different state or to a different city to pursue something else on the career goal list. Yeah. So what is that like?
So at the time, I didn't get the job directly out of undergrad, which was understandable. Being patient with myself. I knew I had a couple of classmates that graduated the semester before me.
Okay.
So they didn't get a job right out of undergrad, but they ended up getting a job, whether it was 3, 4, 5 months. They waited, they stayed patient, and they got their job. Mm-hmm. So I knew for me that it was probably going to be the same turnaround. So I'm big at looking at resources and just aspects of life. Like, okay, it didn't happen right away, which is okay, but it is going to happen. So once I figured that out and I was at peace with that, I was like, okay, do your job and find what you're looking for. So I think I found Spirit on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So I think I found Spirit on LinkedIn and I applied. I went to the website and I applied and things like that. But yeah, and sooner or later, I got a phone call from you. I got a phone call from my guy, Roy, and he was like, hi, I see that you applied. And I was like, yeah, I did. And he's like, are you still interested? Would you like to, he was like, well, I seen you apply for one thing. Go ahead and apply for this. Go apply for whatever you need. And then let me know which recs you applied for, and then I'll get right back to you. So he got right back to me, less than a week, I promise. And you went ahead and you kind of gave me a tip. You gave me tips,
like
and
some
tricks.
Coaching and like just different things. Yeah. And y'all, like, I know it's like watching this podcast, like, oh, really, Roy, you gonna tee up a guest that you brought? But I was just telling Ayana this before the podcast. I kind of forgot about this because the way I've seen her work at Spirit and just like the master's degree and all this stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, like that's how she even got to Wichita. I be forgetting how you got to Wichita.
And I tell people this is a very great part of my story, and I tell this part specifically because other companies that I was applying to at the time, that I was interviewing with, did not have the same grace that Spirit did.
Yeah.
That you had.
And I think for me, it was seeing like the qualifications on your resume and like, the experience from college and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, like she need to be in this company right now. I think another thing too at the time is we were reconnecting. Like I was tasked with reconnecting with HBCUs because, Spirit, for those who don't know who are watching, used to be Boeing, back in 2005 and before. And so they had all those connections with Southern and Prairie View and other colleges.
And Boeing is heavily.
And so when all of that kind of went away, it was like, I got tasked once I left engineering and joined talent acquisition, which that's another story for another day, y'all. But, to lead up the engineering recruiting strategy and specifically with HBCUs, which was such a joy for me. And so that's how I started to see candidates like you because, we were out there recruiting and going and visiting colleges and stuff like that. And so it was really awesome. And then having the phone conversation, I was like, yeah, no, she's bright. Like it's interesting reading your intro and like, no, I saw that on the phone call. Like that, I saw like that's the potential she has. She needs an opportunity. She needs an opportunity to shine. And so I was so glad. And, sometimes you talk to students or recent grads and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Yeah, I'm going to do this. So the flip side of what you did is like, when you told me you were going to do what you were going to do, update your resume, all these different things, you did it.
Yeah.
And so that really helps us on the talent acquisition side. Cause like, I can't hire you, right? Like I can't do any of those things. All I can do is say, hey, here's a candidate, and the managers, take you to the interview process and all that stuff. But if you don't prepare, right? Like, so I think it was a duality of both, of me kind of, once again, being a person of color, Black and Latino, and understanding like what that background is like. And sometimes even me pursuing, a job out of college, and I had interned at Spirit, but I still had other things I was pursuing too at the time. And so just having that unique perspective and then seeing you say like, I'm going to do the work. Yeah. And I'm going to make sure I show up. And then when I found out you got hired, I was like, what? I had forgotten. I forgot. Once again, I just keep forgetting.
It was probably like 6 months later that I talked to you again. And I finally got to meet you in person.
Yes.
And it was like, yeah, it is me. And it is you.
I couldn't believe it. I said, wow. Like I had just totally forgot about that whole thing. And I think what was so exciting was, like I said, you oftentimes in a talent acquisition role, you just meet so many students. And so you never know who's actually going to take the advice or who's actually going to do the work on their end, so that when they're presented in front of a hiring manager, that they're then like, oh, we need this person. Yeah. So I love that. I love that that was your journey. And of course, it has a special bond between us. But so you're at Spirit now, okay? You're working and you're in your role. And so I mentioned Aerospace Industrial Engineer. I would love for you to share a little bit about more of what that is and, kind of day to day, that type of thing, and how you've been maneuvering through that position.
Okay, yes. So Aerospace Industrial Engineer. Woo, that's a long title, I promise. The work is even longer. But no, I kid. That my role kind of entails me being a content creator for leadership. So and I can just sum it down in that way, only because I go ahead and I get the content that the design engineers do. I pile up all the data, I data mine, and compile it all together, and then put it up into a nice little package, nice little presentation with a bow on it. Like, yeah, hey, you can show this to your customers now. And then they give me feedback, whether this is something that they would like, travel around to like either design packages or things that they're working on. I can go ahead and then compile that into resource management, seeing where the resources go, how many resources we're going to need it, how long we're going to need it for. So that is basically what I do on a day-to-day basis, manage resources.
Yeah. And I think it's so like, because I worked at Spirit, of course I have a little bit of insight of that, but yes, I think, and that's a lot, right? It's a lot. It's funny. People probably hearing like content management, like Instagram. No, y'all. Like she said, a lot of these like design, engineering packages, and trying to make sure that, when you're in a large organization, building airplanes, right? That's what Spirit Aerosystems is doing, is building airplanes. You have to manage all like the supply chain and all of those different things, right? Like it's a lot. And so to be in a position like yours, where you're having to, extract the data, pull it together. And not only that, like, I think also something I would love for you to touch on is like the presenting to leadership and what that all entails. Because I think, people in their young professional career or mid-level career of like, that's something I want to do in the future. Okay, but what does that feel like? How do you, progress through that and fight the nerves, whatever?
Yeah, so the nerves are really shot probably once you are presenting to them. But then again, you just remember leadership. They're regular people. They are. And that's what probably calms my nerves when I go ahead into meetings, whenever I start to lead meetings, that we're all regular people. We're all human. Everyone makes mistakes. Everything isn't going to come as packaged as you want it. But being understanding with the next person, like, hey, this is the item, this is the task, this is the due date. Can you make it? Can you not? Can you at least give an excuse why? Do you have a reason? And then if not, set it back. Like, can you tell me when can you hit the date? And so presenting with leadership, I kind of have that same mindset. Like, okay, this is what we're working on. This is what we have. We may not have the resources, but if we play around, can you give us like an extra 2 months?
Mm-hmm.
We will be able to hit it then. Or if you give us another head, like, can we get more resources? Are we able to do that? Just looking at the forecast. Yeah. So that's basically what I do, how I do it.
And it's so funny because you're explaining it so simply and eloquently, and I'm like, the stress that comes with it is a lot. It's like a lot of management of people, of emotions, of opinions. Like when it comes to, I mean, especially in a large organization, right? Everybody comes from a different point of view when it comes to these large decisions and managing all this product and the flow, right? Industrial engineering, the flow of how stuff is moving through our company. It's like, go.
And then let's say like the battle of leaders. So when dealing with, I'm kind of in the middle section. So I help out. So I'm basically like a project manager for the design engineers. I'm with them.
Yeah.
I'm not against them.
Yeah.
It's like we're all on the same playing field. Like I'm helping them. This is what management needs. I have to go to my peers and get that information from them. And then compile it and be like, okay, well, this is what we got. Here you go. This is your chance. You have to do something with it. What do you want to do?
It's such a malleable, type of position. Like you said, sometimes where you are having to lead up or come into a room and say, okay, like, no, we're all kind of on the same playing field, that sort of thing. And so I think that kind of goes right into like the next part that I think would be really interesting to hear too, because I know in industry, a lot of times you are the only. And so, we highlight that on the podcast, not to wallow and do all that stuff, but I think it is like, I sit here inspired because I've gotten to see you in action. I've gotten to see you, in the real world doing the work, as a Black woman, right? Where there's not many, in a lot of companies, when it comes to engineering specifically, as you talk about that industry. So, what has that experience been for you, and what has kind of caused you to say, no, I choose perseverance, and that's the only option. I know that's how you operate, but it's like, I'm so interested to see behind that. Where does that come from?
I can say that girl from high school that told me that there wasn't any engineers that looked like me. She was right, but that does not stop me.
Yeah.
That makes me want to keep going.
Sure.
That makes me want to create a little engineer. But being the only one in the room, I get to highlight our intelligence.
Ooh, say that again. Say that again.
We are intelligent. I got asked, and even though this is like a big HR no, they asked me how old I was yesterday, because there's like they love you in the meetings that I get to lead. They do the work for me. There's no back talk. Like these engineers, there's so much work being thrown at them, and I feel that for them. And it's just like when they come to my meeting, they have everything filled out. They're ready. Once I call their name, they're like, yeah. They give me their top 5. This is what they're working on. This is the progress that they've had. And some people, they've even told me they come in the meeting wishing to give me a bad time, but I do so good. There's like, I gotta save it.
Yeah,
and that's just like, okay, spare me next time.
Wow, but I think it speaks to one, like I said, the word perseverance, that you just say, no, I will persevere through this, but also to your point of like the care for your customer. Like that's something that I think I've always lived by too, is like, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, if I'm singing, if I'm in HR, if I'm in engineering, whatever, there's a customer. And how am I treating that customer and making sure that their experience is good? So that, to your point, they come to your meeting prepared, ready to go, and they want to make sure that they're working hard for you because they know you're going to work hard for them.
Yes.
And so, but I love that, like showing the brilliance of, who Black women are when you're the only one in the room. I think that's amazing. That's incredible. And I'm glad that you lead in that way and you show up in that way. Cause you are paving the way for that little engineer that you're saying, like they are coming. We are doing our part to bring them up. And so I think it's inspiring to see that. And I think that kind of turns us right into the next topic of the giving back, right? Like creating younger engineers and like what that looks like. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about the math tutoring that I needed when I was young and right now too, okay?
And
And I have a math minor, but I still need some
Really?
math tutoring, literally, because we had to take so much math in college that you took one more class. And it was
Oh,
the
yeah.
only math class I ever got an A in, which was linear algebra. That was my final math
Really?
class. The only math class I ever
Oh,
got an A in.
that's a good class though.
So I needed your tutoring help. So tell us about this. Like, who are you tutoring? And there were some successes too
Yeah.
that you had mentioned.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 years ago, and Roy, this story kind of leads back to you too. Do you remember when our coworker, she texted us or emailed us and asked us if we had time to tutor a student that she goes to church with?
Vaguely, maybe.
So she messaged us, and I messaged her back and like, yeah, I do have time. And that was 3 years ago. That's probably close around when I first moved here.
Yeah.
So, well, not, yeah. I was
that early
probably
time,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, I was probably here like 3 months because school had started in August and he needed the tutor in August. So, yeah. I took the tutoring position, and so I tutored him once a week.
Okay.
I did that for 2 years. With him, I didn't even know that there was an algebra 3. I was like, what high school do you go to? I've never taken that.
I know 2 is usually where it stops you.
I was like, I've never took that. Like, are you serious? And yes, it was algebra 3, but it was like paired with college algebra. So I was like, okay, it's same concepts. But going ahead, went into his senior year, and he started filling out scholarships. I was big on scholarships too. And when I was a senior, I got a lot of scholarships. And so I was helping him with some of his scholarships. He filled out a scholarship. Can't remember the college, but he played basketball, so he was hoping for a basketball scholarship. But he got a full ride academic scholarship. Wow. And just to know from where he started, like
to where he is now,
like that is crazy. I had to help him pull up that math grade.
Wow.
But I'm so glad.
And a full ride, like that just shows like the efforts that you're doing as a tutor and like the progress that you're making with your students. So that's incredible. I'm telling you, I needed a math tutor badly.
And I commend his family, his mom, his dad, for getting him that help that he needed. I know our community, there's not too many of us that could even be in that position to help, but when I seen that opportunity, I was like, of course, if I have that gift, why not share it?
And I love that. And I shout out to the family too, because that is something that so many of us need. And it really is just about the access to information and the access to the help. And once you get that help, how it can make you soar. So kudos to you for being in that spot and in that position to help. So I think what I want to do is, pivot over to some music.
Okay.
And talk about some of the songs that you had sent in. Had me over here jumping up and down, bumping, and all kinds of stuff. I said, what's going on? What she got me listening to? So I asked you to pick 2 songs.
Okay.
And we'll go through both of them. So I will kind of mention the name, the artist, and correct me if I say it wrong.
Okay.
And then give some couple bullet points on like what I was experiencing as I was listening to the song. So the first one was Fall On Me by Dizzy 8.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Dizzy
yes,
8. Okay.
Yes.
Man, I pressed play on that song. That beat, I was like, hey. So the beat is the first thing that I wrote down. Really, really powerful and just good. Like, I love a song that has a good beat. It just make you move, make you feel good. It's gonna be all right. That's kind of the quote or the words that I was taking from it as I was listening to the song. And just a word that overcompasses the entire thing was determination. Yeah. Like I just felt like, man, like he is making me feel so determined. Like I can do this. I can push through. So why did you choose that as one of your songs?
Oh, me. He said, it used to feel like I was always trouble. What was my purpose? I didn't have a rebuttal. That was, don't tear up. Because
it's a safe place. This is what we're here for.
What was my purpose? I didn't know. I had to ask myself. Many nights I had to ask myself, I journal, just to figure out what it is that I am supposed to do. What is the path that I'm supposed to be on? I didn't take the path that everybody else took. So just to listen to that, to feel it, and just to know that it is all right. I did overcome. I was determined to do something better. And when it falls on me, I did it.
I love
and
that.
it could fall on me again, and I do it again.
Yep.
So,
And you already did with this master's. We're going to get
Yeah.
back into that too, right before we close. But
Yes.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful because oftentimes in life, especially as young professionals or mid-career professionals, you're trying to figure out like, what am I doing? Like, what is my purpose? And you may have fulfillment in what you're doing, but there's still other things that you may be wanting to pursue or just having those times. And so I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Yeah.
And then feeling that, no, we can do this. We can, it's going to be all right. We will be determined to get through. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And we staying on that same topic because the next song is Motivation by
Yes.
Spiritual Tony. And man, I put in here that opportunity meeting preparation. Like
Yes.
I love that line because I think Oprah said it and so many people have said that. And I firmly believe in that luck is just opportunity meeting preparation. And so if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
Correct.
That motivation, that was another line too, because
Yeah.
that's repeatedly. And then I put go get it. Like it just made me feel like, whereas the other song was like, you're going to be all right. You're going to get through this. This one was making me feel like, okay, I'm ready to run through a wall. Like what do we got to accomplish next? So why did you choose this song?
Yeah. So getting back onto like my personal development, when I first said I was going to move out here, professional development and personal development. Going through college, that was getting through college, finishing. So who am I now as a person? Who am I now as a person? That was all lost in college, right? So I knew that is something that I needed to work on. And when I first moved out here, Motivation was one of the first songs that I've heard. And I think I was listening to a podcast myself.
Okay.
And they had Motivation playing as like the beginning song.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, I like that song.
I love that. I mean, I've also found a couple songs that way too by listening to a podcast. They
Yeah.
play something in the background of the intro song or something like that. But yeah, it's powerful, especially like moving from another, place, and specifically a college that was an HBCU where so many people look like you to a place where so many people who don't look like you
Yeah.
in an industry where, it's just like so many barriers and kind of like a shock, to the system.
Yeah.
And so having to figure out, where do I fit in? Where do I, how do I process this change, these great changes that are happening in my place in all of it. So motivation is definitely important, but I love the songs. I appreciated them. I listened to them a couple times too, just because I was like, okay, I put it on in the background, started doing some emails, this is a good motivational song. So, okay. So there's a new segment in the STEMusic podcast now that we are relaunching and doing virtual. And so I'm asking guests for a STEM word. And so you gave me a STEM word. Now, we're going to see if Roy remembered how this thing goes. But the word you gave me is innovate. Okay. I'm looking at the words that I wrote on here and I'm like, do I remember how this song goes? So I'm going to try to sing this for you. Now, I want to sing innovate, but that's not how it goes.
Okay.
I think it's innovate. I think I'm going to remix this right now and just make it up on the spot. But their words are here. Here we go.
Let's go.
Innovate. I don't like that. Let's do this one. Innovate. Take something old, prove it to great. Innovate. Make something new. It's time to create. Innovate. Change for the good. It's never too late. Innovate. What a difference we can make.
Hey.
I just try to do a little, it's just, it's when you write it and it's like, I really want to give myself the last minute to like come up with it. Cause it's like, it's a challenge, but I'm like, what the hell does this go again? So anyway, but it's a little bit, you want me to do it again?
Yes, please. You make something, we got to be great. Innovate, we got to create. Yeah, come on.
This is so funny. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, ready, and innovate. Take something old and prove to the great. Innovate. Make something new. It's time to create. Innovate. Change for the good. It's never too late. Innovate. What a difference we can make. All right, come on. That was a nice little ending. Okay. Come on, Harmony. I love it. Wow. Oh my gosh. That was good.
Yes.
I like that segment. I think I want to do that more. I think that's going to be on more podcasts because it's just fun. It's a nice little challenge of like, hey, right? Come on.
Let's make something we can be great. Innovate. Let's create and make something great. We innovators making some creators. Innovate.
I appreciate you playing with it. That's too fun. I don't know if any other guests gonna be able to top that. You done got in it.
I wish I would. I used to rap back in my day.
Okay. We might need to do a little collab in STEM music. Okay, all right, STEM Music Nation.
All right.
Y'all saw that. Okay, so anyway, just a couple more questions as we close out this episode. I do want to touch on, as we talk about innovate, as we talk about, motivation and determination. You decided to innovate, right? And the lyrics literally said, take something new, make it great. It's time to create. You said, you know what? I'm a young professional. I've gotten my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, but I want to, it's kind of like, as I was listening to your story about your job and your role and what you're doing, like, I want to be better at that. I want to be, do greater things. So I'm going to go get this master's.
Right.
And so I know a lot of young professionals or mid-career professionals are always thinking like, do I go back and get this education, level up a little bit, or do I not, whatever? So take us through that journey of like deciding, hey, I want to level up, I want to innovate, and I want to go get this master's, and what you got it in, and just the experience over the year. I mean, because of course you had to, do it above and beyond. I said a year, my God, on today. So let us know. Take us into that journey.
Okay, so the journey, I knew back in undergrad, I knew if I didn't find a job after the 6 months, I knew I was going back to school.
Okay, so you kind of already had it in mind that you wanted a further education. Okay.
So I wanted a further education. I didn't want to sit out for too long. So it was either I was working or I was in school. So choose the poison. I knew I wanted to go back for engineering management. So to me, engineering management understood what it is to... basically create the content that is needed for leadership. I didn't know that back then, but that derived out of my matriculation in my graduate studies.
Okay.
And I'm so grateful for OU.
Okay, Sooner. Boomer Sooner.
But yeah, no. What led me to either get my master's? Why did I want to get it?
Yeah. Because I think so many young professionals, mid-career professionals are thinking, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. I didn't end up doing that because I'm pursuing STEM music on the side and music in general on the side. And that was kind of like always a push and pull for me. But I often would have those thoughts. I mean, even now I'm still thinking like, do I want to go back and get a master's? And so it's just always interesting to me for people to take that next step because it's work.
Yeah.
You doing a full-time job, you doing extracurricular activities, you are a math tutor, and then you say like, I'm going to go get a master's. So just like, I don't know, maybe if somebody who's out there who's in that limbo of trying to make that decision of what maybe pushed you over the edge and said, of course you just said you wanted to do it in undergrad already. So you already had a propensity for it. But once you're in the real world, you start understanding like, wow, I'm working all these hours and doing all this stuff. Like, how do you say, I'm going to go ahead and do this?
Well, so with that, with me understanding that, okay, yeah, I'm already here doing the work. If I wanted to level up within work, I know that there are certain requirements that are needed. And a master's degree might be one of them. Taking a look into, I know a lot of people are saying MBA.
And that is the quintessential engineering thing to do. Just and shout out to all the MBAs out there because they were telling me that they were telling me. Look, we ain't trying to throw no shade, but they were saying that to me all the time too. Like MBA, Roy, MBA, And it's, I mean, I'm like, okay, business, but I'm still low key right now. I'm considering like a learning and instructional design master's program.
Okay.
Because it just seems a little bit more interesting, than the MBA route. So who knows? I'm still trying to figure it out, but. Yeah.
When I found out that this specific program was dedicated, so it was an engineering degree and it was an MBA tied together.
Okay.
So when I found that, I was like, okay, that's perfect. So engineering leadership is, they said that because engineers are typically nerds or
shout out to us. Woo, woo, woo.
Literally. That we don't know how to communicate with people. Okay. So it was a huge focus on communication, strategic communication, learning leadership styles. What are the different leaders? How to pay attention to people, how to lead people in a generic, not a generic, but a genuine way. So taking that course, taking those classes, I was like, okay, being reflective on myself, the leaders that were around me, opened my eyes to so much. Like, okay, yeah, this is how this leader does things, and this leader is kind of laissez-faire. They're like, okay, just get it done.
Yeah.
So that returned, like, what kind of leader do I want to be? So that was a great reflection. And then also the watch your words, girl. The degree was concentrated in computer engineering.
Oh, wow.
Right. They didn't tell you that. I learned how to build my own AI.
Wow.
So
talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I knew C++ and Python before taking the class.
Okay.
I mean, before getting the degree, I learned that in undergrad. But so we delved deeper into RStudio, Python, Jupyter's Lab.
Wow.
And SysML. All four. Yeah.
That is so interesting. Like, I would have never thought that would be in that program. I mean, it is an engineering program, but yeah, very specific in the sense of the computer engineering side of things.
So, is it 4 classes? I'm 4 classes away, so like 2 semesters away from a systems engineering master's.
Wow. Through the courses that you took. That's so interesting. Wow.
So I think I'm going back and get it.
Okay. Well, I mean, you did this one in a year. So, I mean, you probably do it in 6 months and be done. So,
Right.
That's incredible. But I think what you're sharing though, too, in the sense of like, hey, wanting to level up, but too, from what you described in your role, that I could see it being extremely helpful because you're managing, even if you don't have a title of somebody in a vice president role or director role or whatever, you're managing so many people and so many different decisions and needing the engineering intellect, right, that we have, but then also trying to work with the design engineers that you're working with, right?
Yeah.
And all the different, personalities that come with that. And so I think it's important and probably really helpful. You probably can see the benefits of like, ooh, this is something I saw in class, a year ago. How do I apply? How do I make the change?
And the whole graduate program was so seamless because everything that we were discussing were literally things that were happening in the industry, and then being able to work with my classmates who were in the various industries all across the world.
Wow.
And we all were having the same issues.
Wow.
Literally. So I was so happy, like all of the things like system requirements, cost engineering, going through those classes. It was like, I see this on a daily basis. Like, this is something that I do. Like, the tests were so easy. Like,
because it's like, this is what I'm really facing. Well, and that's really cool too, because I think it shows, maybe for those who are considering that or thinking about that, that it's so applicable.
Yes.
And I think that when you're trying to get a master's that is, incorporating the things that you're experiencing on a day-to-day, even though I don't have a master's, I just think that that's something that I would be looking for,
yes.
right? I want to make sure that what I'm learning, I can directly apply right here, right now, and not like some theory that's just like back here somewhere, but you can actually apply it. So, well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, and I appreciate you being on this podcast. And the music part is my favorite. That was my favorite part of the entire thing. Like, what? How did you just...
Innovate. Make it great.
Right. So, so one final question, and that is, we kind of just been touching on it recently, but like, when you think about any young professional out there, mid-professional, someone who is in the STEM industry, and maybe they're saying like, okay, how do I, find my way as I'm moving forward? What is something that you'd be sharing to a peer? Maybe someone who comes to you is like, Ayana, listen, I don't know, I'm just kind of going through that sort of thing. What advice would you give them on their trajectory in their career?
Some advice. First thing I would say is listen, right? You're asking for my advice, take heed and listen, right? Because that's something I probably could have did a little bit earlier, was just listen.
Wow.
I asked. I didn't listen. It went out and went in one ear, out the other.
I've been there before too.
So find mentors. Understand what you want to do. Get you a mentor that's doing what you want to do, and they can create you a whole guide on what you want to do. They'll show you the ropes everything. Also, get in tune with yourself. This is a time in our young years to lay our foundation correctly. So watch what you do. Understand what you do. Right? Just don't do it just to do it. Like, don't just apply to all these jobs and think you're gonna get it. And no, why do you want the job? And take that back in with yourself. What do you want to do with your degree? Yeah, you want to be a mechanical engineer. Okay, what do you want to do after that? That was our first question. My first question when I was a freshman engineer, and they call it freshman engineering was the class. The teacher, professor asked us, "Why do you want to be an engineer?" I went down the road
and asked everybody.
Everybody in the class said money, besides me. But
and by the way, money is a part of it. So it is definitely a part of it. But I kind of had the same experience too of like, no, I really love airplanes.
Yeah,
like that's why I was in it. It wasn't because I sure wasn't in it for the math. Y'all know I was. The math was a struggle bus, but I really had the passion around it. So, but no, I think those are all really great pieces of advice to listen. Because same here. I tend to try to listen, but sometimes if it's not something that you want right in that moment, it's like, forget that. No, I need to go my own way or do my own thing. The mentorship thing. I love that. I think mentors are so powerful, so important, especially in a corporate context too. Like if you're trying to rise within a company or have access to those roles. And of course, yes, I worked in engineering, but then I also worked in HR. And so I got to see those interwebs of like, when positions come open, leaders have their people. Leaders have people that they know in their mind of like, I've been watching this engineer, that engineer, this professional. And I think they could be, someone who could interview, that sort of thing. And then, just understanding the why and kind of getting in tune with like, what is it why am I doing this, and why is this important? So I think those are all great lessons. Yes. I think it's a great way to conclude the podcast of the advice out there. So STEMusic Nation, be sure to follow that advice. Okay. Don't let it go in one ear and out the other. But this has been a phenomenal time to just connect. I feel like, and we haven't seen each other in a little minute.
I know.
So it's nice. This is a nice way to catch up and just see each other. But I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of all the things that you're doing, the journey ahead, and excited to see what's to come. So I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast and being such a great guest today.
No, thank you. And shout out to STEMusic. We're going to innovate.
And we're going to be great. I love it.
We're going to be great. Yes. Oh, yes. And I love that you put that in there because I have a project coming up. I don't know if it's going to be my doctorates, but...
Listen, see, I'm telling you, I'm getting inspired right now as I'm sitting here.
But greatness is upon us. We are great. Everyone's great. And yeah.
Amen. Thanks so much. Appreciate you.